common law tort claim. You just got to get this. You got to get all this paperwork done, and right, in all this stuff. And so we put together a form that we can work with clients that want to, or members of the congregation once we convert into a ministry. But we're going to have people, fill out the material and then be able to get the 90 to 100 plus pages of templates. Like, these are only like a few pages. There's in total close to 100 pages, and there's a step-by-step order to filling it out and signing it. We're going to have a service where you can give us power of attorney in order to actually sign and execute all the stuff for you. But we actually prefer for you to learn it. We prefer to give you instructions. We prefer to give you training to learn it. But we are open to helping in any way that you would like to propose. If you're, like I said in the beginning, if you're appreciative, kind, and respectful and supportive of what we do, and, forgiving slightly to any faux pas or tardiness in hosting the webinar on time and things like that. Like, that's not, I hope most people understand that's not really what matters, that I was 10 minutes late to the webinar. If you do, then, I would challenge that guy to say, listen, you put all this together, you put all this together, you put a template together that fills out all the fields for people, you present and research and explain all the material and put it all together in the right order and teach it to people that don't understand it. You do it, and I'll pay to go on your webinar. But I doubt that guy who criticized me for being 10 minutes late on my own webinar is actually putting something together on his own. Is he hosting a webinar to bring people together, to teach people, to answer questions, to introduce people to other people? Like in our status correction course, you're going to get to know other people in the course. You're going to get to, that was one of the most beneficial things for me, and how I actually helped to bring people together to form the board of UCL, was that I went to a Mastery in Commerce course, and I met a whole bunch of like-minded people that were studying and committed and dedicated to the same stuff that I was. So we kind of, clicked and resonated and developed a friendship first, and then we became study partners, and we just exponentially expanded the knowledge, understanding, and evolution of what we were doing and what we were understanding, and how we're able to get successes. So one of the most beneficial things you can do is meet other like-minded people, which we give you an opportunity to do because we pair you up with a couple of study buddies, and you get study sessions, and you get the personal, you get to exchange contact information if you wish with other members of the group. Okay, so that can be very beneficial to you as well. So we need more people to be outdoing the stuff that I'm doing, or the stuff that I understand contract laws do. We need more people. You want to outdo this website with all the great, information and daily blog posts on it, and, detailed articles and 75 YouTube videos right now. You want to outdo it and explain stuff better and put better stuff that gets people better results. I applaud you. Please do it. Please do it. The world needs more. And there are some really other good stuff that's out there. There are some really other good sites that's out there. Freedom School, Creole Harmony. There's a lot of good stuff out there. Carl Lent. There's a lot of good stuff out there. Okay, I'm not trying to monopolize I'm not trying to monopolize everything. But if I have something that's good, I'm going to put time and dedication into it. I'm going to stay up for 14 hours in a row putting stuff together, like 5 days in a row, 3 weeks in a row, to get this done, because the world needs this. The world needs people to change their status, to become free, to have more options, and to no longer have that liability and control over their estate, over their life. So we put this together to make it easy for people to just fill out the information, and then you will get all these templates and more pre-filled out with your second trustee and their address already populated into the field, the name of your trust populated in all the right places, your address populated in the right place, your account number, social security number, etc. But you don't need to. You could do it yourself. You could do it yourself, and I recommend you do it yourself if you can. But if you need help, we are available, and we are in the process of training people to learn this correctly, learn how to spot check the documents and prepare them, and help larger amounts of people. So if you are interested in doing that, first off, sign up for the status correction course, because that is the training that you will get, and then if you graduate from that course, you can get paid to do processes for people if there's a demand for it. Okay, so, and there is a demand for it. There's going to be a big demand for it in 2015, because we're going to be hosting a lot of webinars going over this process, and this webinar is packed out 100 people. There were 200 people trying to get on, and well, let's see. No, I'm not. I can't go back there. You know, so we're planning on doing this next week and the week after, and every single week, to have webinars with 100 people packed on. So there will be people wanting to, you know, the small portion of people that, or I don't know how many people, but the people that want to, you know, contribute a donation to get some services done in exchange, is expected to grow. Okay, so what you're going to do is put your information, and you could also use this sheet for your own. You know, I use this sheet for my family, my friends, the people that I'm helping, to collect their information and put it together. So, second trustee is the one who you trust deeply, who will have your back and not back down to protect the trust. The first and second trustee need to be competent trustees, and or at least be committed to learning about being a good trustee, and in the mode of, you know, quickly learning to do so. The second trustee position is extremely important. God forbid they were ever questioned about it and they backed down and said, no, I have no involvement, I don't know what you're talking about. That would completely potentially vitiate your trust, put you back into the old straw man status of you being the in persona conjuncta. So you really need your second trustee to back you up. Exchanger could be the first or second trustee or another party of your choosing. That's pretty simple. Some piece of property you put into the trust. You could put a gold coin, you could put a ring, you could put you could put anything, tangible or intangible. Okay, but there needs to be that exchange, just like in a marriage. Why do they want people to exchange the rings? Because it's something tangible. Something tangible that is exchanged with a witness creates a really solid contract. Now you can't go back and say, oh, I'm rescinding that contract. At least you can't do it that easily. You see what I'm saying? So people get hung up on these things like, well, what's the property to put into the trust? Dude, you could pick anything. You could pick a pencil. You could really pick anything. You could pick a pencil. You could pick, I don't know, anything. Anything that you own, okay? Right? You have to have free and clear title to it. Okay? So, you know, I was thinking, oh, go pick up a rock on the street and use that. Well, do you really have the title to that rock? Where do you live? Do you live in a private community? You know, do you live in a condominium-like development and all the grass and the rocks and pieces of the concrete from the road that break off? Who really owns that? You can't just pick it up and say you own it. You see what I'm saying? So, or if you took a pine cone from the forest, well, if that was a state park, you know, maybe the state has a claim on that. So you should really pick a piece of property that you really paid for, free and clear, that you actually that the exchanger actually owns, and can document that they own, if ever questioned about it, you know, retroactively. Okay. Don't pick a house. Don't pick real estate. Okay? That's not what you're doing with this trust. You want to pick something you own free and clear. Number one, you don't own that free and clear because you probably got a mortgage and property taxes and things like that on that. Okay? Pick something smaller. There's certain reasons why you don't want to put, you know, real estate into this trust anyway, even if it was appropriate. This is just a trust to create an express trust for your legal name. This is not a trust to put large amounts of assets that have a high value. Okay, those would be, you probably want to set up like a land trust for something like that. That'll be the subject of future things. but this gives you all the fields: the governing law of the debtor, the date you were born, the date of your 18th birthday, a second notification state of that where you're going to send this notice to. You're going to notify the Secretary of State in the state that you were born in, and the Secretary of State in another state, preferably a state that you live in if it's different than that you live at if it's different than the one that you were born in. Those would be two really good states to notify. Okay. So what do you got here? Exchanger, the beneficiaries, the percent that you give to the beneficiaries. So you don't need to give 100% to the beneficiary or beneficiaries. Okay, a corporation can issue stock, and you can just issue a certain amount of stock, and you can hold, and you can always issue future stock, years later, right? So you don't need to issue all the stock of the company like all up front. You can issue a portion of it, and then you have reserves for issuing more at a later date. Okay, so a trust is very similar to a corporation in the fact that the beneficiaries are kind of like the shareholders of a corporation. Trustees are kind of like the directors of a corporation or the president, vice president, and the founder of a corporation, like whoever founded the company, is the grantor or the creator of a trust. And the investor that also helped create the corporation, right? Usually the founder and investor, right? Like I think that the founder and investor of Microsoft is probably like Bill Gates, right? And the founder and one of the investors of Facebook is Mark Zuckerberg, right? But it doesn't have to be the same person. You can have one person put up the money or property and one person be the brains behind it, right? So the exchanger of a trust is kind of like the investor of a corporation. The creator or grantor of a trust is kind of like the founder of a corporation. So I think I went over all the parties there and how a trust is very similar to a corporation, but it has way major advantages. But again, we're not really focusing on the advantages of using trusts other than the fact that we are limiting that liability, creating some different things that we can go after, some different protections that we have, and you got to pick one of the main things is picking a really competent second trustee and having a second trustee and having board meetings with your second trustee, even if it's just once every 2 years. You got to document and show the meeting minutes and the cooperation and involvement of the two trustees. I mean, it's private. You don't have to share that knowledge with anyone. If a court asks for it, it's private. You don't have to show it. But the trust and the board of directors may want to show that they're, to prove that it is a valid trust, if it's to the advantage of the trust, okay? So if push comes to shove, years later down the road, it's kind of like when you run a company. Years later down the road, you're going to get audited for the things that you're doing years ago in the initial setup. So you want to make sure you do whatever you do in the initial setup properly from day one, right? You don't want to be sloppy with your bookkeeping and your records and this and that and then get audited for something you did 3 or 4 years ago that, wasn't proper, okay? Same thing with this. You want to have actual board meetings. There's really just one meeting. It's only 10 minutes long. I have a script that I can read to you of a sample of exactly what to say at the meeting, because I understand people haven't done these things before. They've never had a trust. They've never been on a board of, maybe when you guys are in college, you were on the board of your student government or on the board of some sorority or fraternity, frat group or some club in grade school. I don't know. But if you never formally had a board meeting, you may want to learn how to do that and what the rules are. There's something called Robert's Rules of Order that you may want to look into. But, even that, you don't really need to study really that hard. I put together a script which is sufficient for the topics and the bullet points of what to cover at the board meeting. Let me just pull up the first board meeting, minutes of initial trust. This is just to document, the date of the meeting, the place of the meeting. Now it can be done through Skype, through the telephone, through whatever, okay? But you could be done at a Starbucks, at a library, it could be done at your home, whatever. But you got to document that a meeting of the minds actually happened. You're not just putting this paperwork together and signing this stuff. You're just documenting that it happened. The first trustee, in case it ever gets questioned and you need to relinquish any doubts from some judge or whoever that this is a express operating legit trust. A lot of trusts have been, and corporations have been determined that they were a sham and that it was really just one person operating it, and they were using a fictitious trust or sham trust or sham corporation as a shield for whatever purpose, whatever purpose, okay? So doing things proper, I'm a big believer in doing things proper. First trustee, Mark John Smith of the aforementioned trust, was present and constituted a quorum of the board. Trustee called the meeting to order and affirmed that officially on so-and-so date the trust was created but left properly unmanaged. That's the date of the date of birth, right? Trustee called the meeting to order and affirmed that officially on so-and-so date the trust was created but left properly unmanaged until today's date, until accepted by appointment of Mark John Smith has been accepted as first trustee of the trust. Trust became fully operational as a separate legal entity on the birth date. Temporary secretary, as undersigned below, was appointed to record these minutes. Trustee approved the initial exchange on the attached addendum to the initial meeting and authorized the issuing of the agreed number of certificates to the exchangers. We showed you those already. Trustee then appointed Susie Smith, another trustee, and the party being present accepted the appointment and affixed their signature below. Trustee stated that the trust was in immediate need of a person or persons who could serve as managing directors. After discussion upon motion duly made, second and carried, it was resolved that the following person or persons herein named as officers of the trust to serve with bond and until replaced by resolution of the Board of Trustees in the capacities identified below. You and your second trustee. It says managing director and secretary. Those are both trustee positions. It is decided that the managing directors will be authorized to conduct day-to-day routine business of the board, to hold trust business meetings, blah, 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 have bank accounts, yada, yada. The secretary will keep minutes, act in the best interest of the trust certificate holders by keeping prudent record-keeping of certificate transfers and other business respecting the holders of this trust, etc., etc., etc. There being no more business before the board, the meeting was adjourned. The two trustees. So did you actually have a meeting and have a motion that was second and carried and the board resolved that you were both appointed as the trustees? Okay, did you actually do that? Well, you may be unfamiliar with doing that. So what I did is I put together a sample script. This is a sample of what to say verbally together with the two trustees at the time, date, location of the first trustee meeting. Let me zoom in a little bit. I hope you guys see the amount of time that we put into making things easy for you. It is a sample based on the agenda that your first trust meeting is usually going to have. You can have this meeting on the phone at a physical location together through Skype or join.me or any other means. You may wish to have your meeting using an encrypted or private technology, which we're going to have future webinars about. Well, basically, if you're using the phones or the internet, there are tools that you can keep all your trust meeting minutes private so that you don't have, I'm sure you guys know the CIA is recording, everything that we're saying right now, and everything on your phone, and there's, buzzwords that are caught and things like that. So if you guys are into this stuff, you're probably all having your stuff, monitored by the CIA or the NSA or whatever. So, not that you're doing anything with your trust that you really, have any liability about, but, hey, I don't want other people, this is a private meeting, I don't want anybody listening to it. So there is some really cheap, very effective private technology that you can use if you're going to have your meetings over the telephone or over the computer or whatever, and we're going to give you tools for that later. Military-grade encryption text messages and sending photos through phones and encrypted phone calls that nobody can intercept. Really cool stuff like that later on in the year we'll put some webinars together for you guys. Calling to, but that's not necessary. We like going above and beyond, right? And giving you all the tools and ammunition, and you guys pick and choose what you want. It's like a buffet. We like going above and beyond so that everybody who comes to the table, if they're really hungry, if they're a meat eater, if they're a vegetarian, if they want soup, if they want a salad, if they want Indian food, if they want Asian food, we want to bring everything to the table, right? Every kind of drink. You want, fresh squeezed carrot juice, wheatgrass. You want iced tea. You want soda. You want to drink Coca-Cola. We want to bring everything to the table and then go above and beyond what is necessary, because we're just very passionate about this stuff. This is the real deal here. So why not go above and beyond? I wouldn't go above and beyond if this was nonsense, if this was a theory that some guru started talking about, 3, 4, 5 months ago and posting up videos on the internet. I'm passionate about this because I know that this process works. Okay, I know this is the correct process. I know for me, from what I experience, and there's many different ways to do things. So if you have other ways and other things that are working, please share them with the congregation, share them with the family, share them with us, and we would love to pay you to write blog posts on our website. We would love to pay you to make PowerPoint presentations. We would love to pay you to do webinar presentations if it's really good stuff, if it's valuable stuff, okay? Focus doesn't all have to be on me and my guys doing webinars, okay? So it's a cooperative effort to an extent if you guys are at that level yet, okay? And I welcome you to elevate to get to that level if you're not. And I hope that I'm facilitating that in some way. Okay, so anyways, calling to order the Mark John. This is a sample of the script, okay? So you would sit down, preferably in real life, because then you can sign the documents and get both wedding signatures on all the documents together all in one meeting, okay? So this is how it would go. And this is really important. I know it's starting to get a little bit to the late. We're going to be wrapping it up within the next 20, 30 minutes. And then I'll just take questions for whoever really wants to stay up late with me. And I know I will probably have to wake up late tomorrow from staying up late and talking. It's a lot of energy to keep talking for hours and hours and answer questions. But, this stuff is important. It's really important, okay? So this is a sample of what the meeting. You sit down, you got all the documents printed out that we prepared for you or that you prepared for yourself, and you go, calling to order the Mark John Smith Trust. Today is Friday, January 30th, 2014. Who is going to take the meeting minutes as the temporary secretary for today? And then obviously you or your friend raise their hand and say, okay, you're going to do it? Okay, great. You pull out your marble notebook, or you pull out whatever, or you pull out the previous minutes that we already have typed up for you, and you just document and, put a check mark next to the fact that this all happened. And at the end you sign it, okay? So we're going to go. We're going to say, present here are myself, Mark John of the family Smith, and Mark Dennis Awesome, who's your second trustee. I, Mark John of the family Smith, will act as the chairperson of this meeting, and Mark Dennis Awesome, will you act as the secretary and record the meeting minutes? Okay, great. We have a consensus. Okay. Now the first order of business. The first order of business is and the whole purpose of this meeting is the mismanagement of this trust, and the reorganization and proper management of this trust at the direction of the creator or of the grantor, which is me in my sui juris capacity. So let's just give a little bit of background, make sure we both understand what's going on here. The trust, I have the birth certificate right here. You might want to pull out a certified copy of the birth certificate, and you might want to show the second trustee. You want to say, listen, I have this birth certificate right here, and this trust, obviously, it's a legal entity, operating in the United States and so forth, and it became fully operational as a separate legal entity on whatever your birth date is, as evidenced by the birth certificate. Right here is the birth certificate number. And here's a certified copy that will remain in the trust books and records, and we'll let the secretary keep that in their trust books and records. By the way, 3-ring binder with clear plastic sheets. That's your trust books and records, okay, in case you guys know. So go pick one up. Go to Staples, okay? I frequent Staples all the time, okay, because I'm a trust geek. Okay, I am a trust geek. I got multitudes of trusts that I'm in some way involved with, okay? So you're going to put that birth certificate in the records there, okay? And yes, you can go and get the authenticated and apostilled copy and put it in there. And we'll cover that at a future webinar. We're not going to go there yet, but this is just to show the second trustee. Here's the legal evidence for identification purposes that this trust exists. But you know what? The government's running this show. It's being mismanaged. And since it's me that created it, we all know that from common sense. It was my foot put on the birth certificate. I mean, we know that. We're having a meeting. We're having a meeting of the mind. We're both explaining. We're both understanding it. Listen, we're going to change and reorganize this trust due to the mismanagement of the corporation, the federal corporation, mismanaging it. So you're going to say, here's a certified copy which will remain in the addendum and the trust official books and records attached here too. Background. The trust has become fully operational as a separate legal entity. Did we copy that already? Okay, that's a duplicate. We already said that in the previous, look, we're saying this twice. I'm going to update the file here. So as John Henry of the family of the House of Doe and the creator and grantor of the trust, John Henry Doe, let us affirm on and for the record that the trust has been left properly unmanaged and that I am appointing myself, John Henry of Doe, of the family Doe, as the first trustee of the trust, due to the fraud and deceit involved in the mismanagement of the trust, and based upon my own sui juris capacity as the creator. I have enrolled, well, this is, where we change that. I have enrolled Mark Dennis Awesome. And by the way, if your second trustee can be a U.S. citizen, it doesn't have to be a living man or woman, okay? It could also be a corporation, but you shouldn't be involved with that a corporation, okay? If you have a second or third trustee or whatever, you shouldn't be involved with that trust or corporation. You want to really create a separation. Otherwise, they can pierce the corporate veil because it's just you and another capacity being the two trustees, and then they can break that. So the bottom line is you got to have a friend that wants to be your second trustee, okay? And that's not difficult. I mean, I was laughing with my mentor the other day about this, and he asked me, he's like, I said, you know, there's some people who say, oh, I don't have a second trustee. And he goes, what, you don't have a friend? You don't have one friend? Really? You don't have one friend? Okay, so you got one friend that's the second trustee. Obviously, you want to pick the best, competent, you know, attention to detail, sharp, intelligent, trustworthy, loyal, dedicated. You know, if you went to prison, they would come and visit you type of friend, okay? And they wouldn't abandon you, and they wouldn't just go on with their merry life, okay? Second trustee, okay? Some people have questions. Can my spouse be my second trustee and all these things? We get into all those details later in the status correction course and in the later materials and stuff. I just want to go through this script right now, but you know, there's some legitimate questions that come up that people have. Once we have two trustees, okay, so picking up the script here, we have enrolled Mark Dennis Awesome to consider a position as a second trustee of said trust here today. Once we have two trustees, now we have formalized that. Once we both sign our acceptance as trustee documents, we can conduct further business of the trust today. Mark Dennis Awesome, as your role as trustee, you must pledge and manage to protect and preserve the trust estate to the prudent exercise of the powers and authorities provided to you by the trust, i.e. contract, the declaration of trust. All actions by the trustees must have a consensus of the majority of the Board of Trustees. Mark Dennis Awesome, please review and sign the acceptance as trustee position paperwork, which is a one-page just acceptance that they're accepting that role. Do you wish to accept this position? They will say yes. Well, then raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Mark Dennis Awesome, and then he says, I, Mark Dennis Awesome, solemnly pledge to manage, protect and preserve the trust estate, through the prudent exercise of the powers and authorities, provided to me by this contract, titled Declaration of Trust of John Henry Doe Trust. What was the trust name? It wasn't John Henry Doe Trust. It was what was it? What was it, guys? Mark John Smith, right? We used. So let me fix that in this script. Right? This is a example of a fake client or person doing it, or you know. Usually we use John Henry Doe. Oh, here's another one, John Henry Doe. Just want to make sure it's congruent. We're going to have both. Why don't we make this one John Henry Doe? That's fine. You guys get the point, right? Okay, great. We'll put today's date on the acceptance as trustee. Make a copy for your records. You can sign it. And we'll keep the original in the trust meeting minutes in this 3-ring binder here, this books and records. You might want to have it. We have a nice cover page, by the way, for your 3-ring binder, and I'll show you what it looks like. We got everything for you guys, and we're continually working. I work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day minimal. I don't have a weekend. Okay, this is my life. So, and sometimes I'll take a day off like once a month or something like that, or go on like a, once a year I'll go on like a 3 or 5 day cruise or something like that when I'm able to. But I don't really, maybe it's not correct because of the whole biblical thing where you're supposed to take Saturday off for the Sabbath, and I don't know how my life would be different if I did that, but I definitely break that rule. For good or for worse, just to let you guys know. Where is the cover page? Here you go. This is a cover page. So you would put this document, Mark John Smith Trust Documents, created by Mark John Smith, main office, phone number, email, right? So this is just going to be on the cover of your 3-ring binder. So go to Staples, go to Office Max, go to even, there's a lot of 24-hour CVS stores, and you can get a 3-ring binder from there if it's like at the end of the webinar, if it's like 1 in the morning. I've done that many times. I just go to CVS because, the Staples closes a little early. But I go there, and you get your special paper, you get your special binders, you get your special, whatever you need, staplers, you need, blue ink pens, markers, highlight, all those office supplies and stuff, envelopes, all those things, bubble wrap. But this is a nice little cover page that you can put on the outside cover. That outside cover, you can slip it underneath there so that when you leave this around your house or you leave this around wherever you bring it, wherever you store it, you can identify that that's your binder for this trust. You're not putting any other stuff in there. That's your binder for the trust. Okay, and it could be interpreted that if you have your trust documents in a binder along with like your homework for going to grad school to learn to be an engineer or a doctor, and you're mixing those two things together, potentially, or you're mixing like another corporation's documents together with this trust documents, with you got 3 trusts put together in the same binder, mixing and matching it together like that could be construed like it's your personal property, and you're mixing and matching your own personal property with your position as a trustee of this organization. So you want to keep it separate by itself, where you've only got the clear plastic sheets with the 3-ring binder, you've only got your trust documents exclusively in the binder, and you have it somewhere in safekeeping. And you may want to put it in a safe, a fireproof safe, things like that. You might want to make second copies of all the paperwork and keep it in a safety deposit box, or keep it at your, like at your mother or your, family member, your mother or father's house, or somewhere else, just in case it gets stolen, just in case, your house gets raided and it gets taken, or your house goes on fire, or there's an earthquake, or there's a hurricane, or, you get into a disagreement with someone and they steal documents from you, or you get evicted and they lock you out of your house, whatever this scenario is. This is critically important stuff here, okay? This is like, keeping stocks and bonds that you inherited from your grandparents, or that you're not supposed you're not supposed to cash or deposit for like another 10, 20 years. Like, this is valuable stuff that you need to treat it like that valuable, because it is. It really is extremely, extremely valuable. So I use this cover sheet in order to document that that's my 3-ring binder for the trust. And I don't have it under the